Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to make a Victoria sponge cake. I'm very excited. This is round 2 for me. But luckily my family already ate it all, so I'm sure they're gonna be fine with eating another round. So I know all of you are stuck at home, so this is a very great way to kind of just learn something new, or maybe just add something else to your repertoire if you're a baker already. So a little bit about the Victoria sponge cake. I'm sure all of you are familiar with strawberry shortcake. It's just like a scone or like a biscuit with whipped cream and strawberries on it. This is literally just the British version of this, and it's just 2 vanilla cakes, and then sandwiched in between is whipped cream and strawberry jam, and it's dusted with powdered sugar on the top. So good. Usually in the UK, they eat it during the summertime when strawberries are in season, and they have it during tea time. So this is a cake that's really great with like a cup of coffee, or if you are a tea drinker like myself, it's great with a cup of tea with a little bit of milk in it. So good. So number one thing I'm going to tell you before we start is make sure all of your ingredients are room temperature. And what do I mean by that? I mean, you're not just taking eggs out immediately from the fridge and just plopping it in there. Where the butter, even like I microwaved it for an extra like 15 seconds, even though I had it out for over an hour. And I just really want to make sure that it's so soft where I could literally just like stick my finger in there, no problem, it's not gonna give. Let's just bake this cake so you guys can make it, right? Alright, so before we start, I'm gonna tell you the ingredients. So here I have 1 stick plus 6 tablespoons of butter. 1 stick is a half of a cup, so just so you know, just in case your butter sticks aren't the same size. So 1 stick plus 6 tablespoons of butter. I have 1 cup of sugar. This is just regular granulated sugar, not powdered sugar. I have 1.5 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. Don't substitute like wheat flour or anything like that because it's going to change the whole cake. So make sure you're using just regular all-purpose flour for this. I have 3 eggs. I have 2 tablespoons of milk here, and you can use any kind of milk. You can use almond milk if you want it as well. This is just to kind of add like a liquid agent into it, just to kind of help the batter a little bit. And this is 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And I know this is a lot, but this is again going to help give that texture to the sponge cake, so, and help with that rise as well. So make sure it's 3 teaspoons of baking powder. If not, baking soda is okay. Use 3 teaspoons of baking soda plus 1.5 teaspoons of either lemon juice or vinegar. It could be apple cider vinegar, white vinegar, doesn't matter. And I promise you're not gonna taste it when you eat the cake. This is just strictly for the chemical reaction. So 3 tablespoons baking soda, or 1.5 plus 1.5 teaspoons of lemon juice and or vinegar. Right, and then just to make the cake taste good, I have 1/2 teaspoon of salt here, just to kind of give a balance to the cake. You don't want it just to be completely sweet. That'll give like a nice little savoriness to the cake. And of course, we're making vanilla sponge cake, so I have a teaspoon of vanilla extract in here. All right, so now we can go ahead and start with making this cake. So first, what I'm gonna do is sift the dry ingredients. I have a sieve here. If you don't have that, you can just use a whisk and just whisk it up really well. This is just going to help aerate the flour and just make sure that all of the dry ingredients are evenly combined as well. So just plopping the flour into there with the sieve in a bowl here, putting the baking powder in there as well, trying to evenly distribute that through the flour too. Because if you don't, that's going to cause just like random areas of the cake to be higher than the other. And the salt. And I'm just going to go ahead and sift that through. And once that's done, I'm actually going to whisk it as well, just to make sure it's all evenly combined. We're gonna be cracking the 3 eggs and putting it into a measuring cup just because it has a little spout, making it easier for whenever we do have to add it into the bowl. So just scrambling that just a little bit. All right, so once we got that, we can go ahead and just start creaming the butter and sugar. Now, I usually use a stand mixer or a KitchenAid, but obviously not everybody has a KitchenAid. But I figured one thing that almost everybody has in their kitchen is an electric mixer. It's one of these that has these little attachments onto it, so I'm gonna use that today just to show you. And if you don't have either of those, again, a whisk is okay, but you're just going to get a really nice arm workout with this because you're really gonna be whisking this for a long time. So for the butter and sugar, creaming it together, just plopping literally everything in there. The 1 stick plus 6 tablespoons of butter and the 1 cup of sugar. And we're going to be beating this for a solid 5 minutes because we want this to get really nice and fluffy. And you'll even see too, butter is kind of like a yellowish tint. This whole mixture is gonna be almost white in color, almost like an off-white in color. And that's because of all of the air that we're gonna be incorporating into it. And I'll show you the texture in just a second. And a lot of this will also start getting up on the sides of the bowl. So feel free to stop it and scrape the sides with a spatula and bringing it into the middle again so you get a nice, even cream. So as you can see, this mixture is like an off-white color. It's not moving anywhere. It looks nice and fluffy. That's exactly what we want. We're gonna want to keep that texture as much as possible because we want to keep the air that we've been incorporating into the butter and sugar to make it into the oven. All right, and now we are going to be adding in our eggs. Now you can just whisk this in. I'm actually probably going to do that just because I don't want to deflate this too much. And you can overmix this, and that's like a big no-no whenever you're baking, is to not overmix your ingredients. So I'm gonna add this in like 3 portions here, just like each of the eggs. And I'm just going to incorporate this in with a whisk and mix until it's completely inside of the mixture. And we're doing it by egg because we don't want this to curdle. And what I mean by curdle is that you can see like the separation between the eggs and the butter, and it looks almost kind of like cottage cheese, and that's not what we're wanting here. But as you can see here, it's become nice and light and fluffy. That's exactly what we're wanting before we incorporate each egg mixture. So I'm going to keep doing that. And the benefit of doing this by hand as opposed to doing this with the mixer is with the mixer, you can have it going on for a little bit too long and it'll overbeat the mixture. So just doing it by hand ensures that you're not going to do that because you're going at a much slower pace. Right, again, added that second one. It's still that nice texture. That's exactly what we're wanting. We're gonna go ahead and add the last little bit here and just whisk that in. And you'll see whenever you add in the egg, you'll see that kind of separation happening, but that's why we're whisking it and beating it in so that it incorporates into the butter and the fat, or the butter and the sugar. Right. And once you add that third one in there, it should kind of look like this, a little bit yellower. And we're going to, again, beat it just a little bit more, just to make sure that we're adding in a lot of air. But again, don't overbeat it. We're just kind of making sure that this is really nice, light and fluffy. All right. Mixture should look like this. Now we are going to add in our dry ingredients, and we're just gonna go ahead and just put all of that in there. And then with a spatula, just gonna start going around the bowl and kind of go underneath of the batter here and bring it on top. And this is a fold. We're folding in the dry ingredients here so that we're not losing the air that we've incorporated into the mixture already, but also still combining all of the butter, sugar, egg mixture in with the dry ingredients. And once it looks shaggy, like this, where you can see big clumps of the butter and the flour, I'm gonna go ahead and add in our milk, or 2 tablespoons of milk here, and the teaspoon of vanilla. And that should be all of your ingredients there. And I'm gonna go ahead and just use the electric mixer very quick, just to speed up this process a little bit, by literally keeping it on the lowest speed and mixing it for maybe 30 seconds. That was all of maybe like 10 seconds. It's pretty much incorporated already. There are some like things of flour in there. That's okay. We're going to take the spatula and actually just mix it up a little bit by hand, because again, you don't want to overmix this. Once you incorporate flour into your mixture, you do not want to overmix unless you're making bread, because flour has gluten in it, and the more you work gluten or like beat it up, it's going to get tough, and you don't want a tough cake. So again, I'm doing that folding technique where I'm going around the bowl, going underneath of it and bringing it over, and kind of spinning the bowl, just going like this, kind of cutting through, making sure it's all incorporated here. And it looks like our batter is pretty much ready to go. I have 2 8-inch baking dishes that I have sprayed with just regular cooking spray, and then I added parchment paper onto the bottom. What I did was I just took a piece of parchment paper, put the pan on top, traced it, cut it, and then put it in the middle. Do not skip this step, or else your cake will stick to the pan. So make sure you do oil it and put the parchment paper underneath, so it'll come out super clean whenever it's done baking. So I'm going ahead and evenly distribute this batter into the pans. It's not going to seem like a lot of batter, but again, it's going to puff up once we put it in the oven, so don't worry. But we are going to need to help spread this out in the pans. Of course, you can weigh the batter and then just put it into the pans like that, so you make sure that it is equal. Let me be honest, I'm pretty sure not all of us are gonna do that, so that's why I'm kind of just eyeballing it. You can too, but more than likely this is going to cause 2 different sized cakes. But we're doing this homemade, am I right? It's all about the unevenness that makes things look homemade, am I right? All right, so make sure you use the spatula to scrape all that you can out of the bowl. We do not waste here. We use everything. I'm just gonna take this spatula. You can use like a offset spatula, is what I would do, but just showing this to you guys because not all of you are gonna have baking stuff in your kitchens. So I'm just spreading this out here with a very light touch, because you don't, again, want to lose all of that air that we've incorporated into the batter. And just smoothing that out evenly all the way to the sides of the pan. We're gonna do that for both pans, and then we'll plop them in the oven, and then we'll decorate afterwards. All right, I got my 2 cakes here, and we're gonna plop them into the prepared oven, meaning it's at 350 degrees. It's already at that temperature. We're gonna put them in the middle rack because we want them to bake evenly. So I'm gonna take these 2, put them right next to each other, close it. You do not want to keep opening and closing the oven door, or else it'll cause the cakes to collapse because it's like an immediate change in temperature. All right, so I set the cakes in there for about 20 minutes. They are going to cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. It just really depends on your oven. All ovens are different, so just make sure you keep an eye on it. I have it set for 20 minutes right now, and I'm just gonna check on it periodically. And you'll know whenever your cake is ready, whenever it gets a beautiful caramel brown color on the top of it. And whenever you do think they are ready, whenever you see that color, you take it out, take a toothpick, stick it in the very middle of the cake, and if it comes out, the toothpick comes out completely clean, it doesn't have any crumbs on it or any batter on it, then you know it's ready. If it has batter on it, it probably needs to be in there for probably another 5 minutes. And then you'll just leave it out to cool for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to invert them and put them onto a cooling rack. All right, so while the cakes are in the oven, we're gonna go ahead and multitask, and I'm gonna show you how to make the whipped cream. So I have about a cup of heavy cream here. Just gonna plop it into the bowl. We're gonna take about 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar, just regular sugar. You don't need a lot because the cake and the jam are already gonna be very sweet, so that's why we're gonna put a little bit in there. May not even use all of this. Yeah, just barely put in 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. We're gonna take our trusty electric mixer and we're going to whip this up. So again, start on a very low speed. Since this is liquid, it could just go everywhere. Already we're about like a minute and a half in, and the mixture is already getting a little bit thicker. All right, this took all of maybe 2.5 to 3 minutes, and you can see how this has completely changed. Now it's holding its shape even whenever I move the bowl like this, except for that one little piece here. And you can see it's really nice and airy. And once you get to this stage, it's very tempting to continue to beat it, but don't. Because if you continue to beat it, it'll then start separating and go back into kind of like a weird liquid form. And you want to keep it like this because it's going to be nice and airy and perfect for the middle of the cakes. All right, so I just took these out of the oven. Again, they're like a nice golden brown color, sticking a toothpick into there. And it's coming out completely clean. There's literally nothing on this toothpick. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave these onto this rack, let them cool off in the pans for about 10 minutes. And then I'm gonna run a butter knife around them, turn them upside down to get them out, and then turn them right back side up and keep them on this rack here until they are completely cooled. You don't want any heat to come off of them, or else it's going to melt all of the good insides whenever we sandwich it together. All right, we are back. The cakes have completely cooled now. They're cool to the touch. They feel cool whenever I touch them. So now we're going to go ahead and assemble. So go ahead and decide which cake you like better. That's the one that you're gonna put on the top, since that's the one that's gonna be most exposed. I'm thinking I like this one better, so I'm gonna start this one as my base layer. Just peeling off the parchment on the bottom and just placing it directly onto my serving tray. You can also just use a plate. I'm gonna start off with the strawberry jam. I'm probably gonna use the rest of this. This is maybe about like 1/3 to 1/2 of this jar here that I'm gonna use. We're just gonna put a thin layer of this onto the cake. You don't wanna use too much because it's just gonna squish out of the middle, and that's not what you want. I'm gonna spread this out in an even layer and not going all the way to the edge, because once we put the other sandwich on top, it's going to do that for us already. So just kind of going almost to the edge there and spreading that out. And at this point as well, you can also put fresh strawberries on here or completely omit the jam and just use strawberries. It's completely up to you. We just don't typically carry strawberries in our house, but we always carry jam, so just adding that on there. All right, set that aside. And now we're going to add on the whipped cream. Now you don't have to use all of this if you don't want. I don't use all of it, but I keep some on the side so people can add on extra cream on top if they want. And again, I'm going to do the same thing very lightly, just smooth that out onto the cake. Again, not going too far out because it will get squished anyway whenever we put that top layer on. All right, and now we can add on the top layer. So go ahead and take, again, the parchment off. We're just gonna sandwich that on top. Don't push down on it because you're gonna make everything squish out on there. All right, it's looking really good. And now we're just going to dust this with some powdered sugar. I just have like a tea thing that you put loose leaf teas into, and I'm just using this just to dust some powdered sugar on top. And we're gonna dust the entire thing with powdered sugar here. A nice little snowfall on it. You can completely omit this as well, or just use granulated sugar on here too, but I just like the way that the powdered sugar looks. And that's how you'll typically see this as well, as with powdered sugar on top. All right, and you can either leave it like this, you can have fresh strawberries on top to decorate. I don't have that, but I do have some leftover piped roses that I'm gonna put on top of here just because I have them. Alrighty, and there you have it, the very delicious, light and fluffy vanilla sponge cake. I'm gonna also do a cross section so you guys can see what the inside looks like. And there you can see it's very nice and light and puffy. You see the little crumbs, and it very much resembles a sponge. And that is how you make a delicious Victoria sponge cake. And I would suggest to keep this in the fridge as well, since it does have whipped cream in it, if you're not gonna finish it that same day, depending on how many of you are gonna be eating this cake and how much of it you're going to be eating. I won't judge if you eat all of this because I would not blame you. But yeah, keep it in a airtight container, like one that has a lid that you can close. It should be good for a few days, up to a week at most. But I'm sure you guys are going to eat all of this before it even reaches up to a week. If you guys do end up making this, let me know, tag me in it so I can see it. I cannot wait to see you guys actually make this as well. And also, again, thank you so much, Eduardo, for suggesting that I make a video like this while all of us are at home. I hope I've inspired you to do a little something different while you're at home, stuck at home, and just be creative and really just enjoy making something yourself. So, and also enjoy eating it too. Thanks so much, guys, and hopefully maybe I'll do another recipe and I'll see you guys then. All right, take care. Stay safe and stay healthy.